In February 2017, Tim Piazza envisaged a bond of brotherhood with Beta Theta Pi fraternity members. But one fateful night in February 2017, what began as an initiation rite involving a gauntlet of drinking stations quickly spiraled into a nightmare. After consuming vast amounts of alcohol, Tim fell down the fraternity stairs. Yet instead of seeking immediate help, fraternity members waited, discussing potential repercussions. Hours passed before they called for assistance. The Center Daily Times reported Piazza suffered for hours with life-threatening injuries as his would-be brothers debated their next steps. Tim's agonizing final hours and the ensuing legal battles shook the nation, prompting a reevaluation of fraternity culture and hazing rituals. Tim's story is not unique, but it serves as a haunting reminder of America's complex relationship with hazing, a ritual that claims to build brotherhood but has shattered countless lives. But why does such a dangerous tradition persist in the land of the free? Why are young people subjected to physical, emotional, and psychological torment in the name of belonging? Hazing, as an initiation rite, has roots that stretch deep into the annals of American history, reaching far beyond the bounds of college campuses and athletic teams. Its origins can be traced back to early military traditions where new recruits underwent rigorous and sometimes humiliating tests to prove their mettle. These rites, often deemed necessary for forging camaraderie and resilience, gradually made their way into civilian life. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, fraternal organizations and social clubs began adopting similar initiation practices. These organizations, often seen as gateways to social prestige and networking opportunities, used hazing as a means to test loyalty and commitment. However, as these rituals evolved, they often escalated in intensity, transforming from mere tests of endurance to hazardous and sometimes fatal ordeals. The rise of college fraternities and sororities during the 20th century saw a further surge in hazing activities, often under the guise of tradition and brotherhood. Yet many of these rituals were far from harmless fun. They created an environment where excessive alcohol consumption, physical torment, and psychological abuse became normalized. Today's hazing landscape bears a stark contrast to the more innocent, albeit tough, rites of passage from yesteryears. As time has progressed, modern hazing has grown insidious, intertwined with the party culture and a warped sense of camaraderie. College fraternities and sororities, which once upheld values of scholarship, leadership, and community service, now frequently find themselves under scrutiny for brutal and degrading initiation practices. These ceremonies, whether it's binge drinking, physical torment, or emotional manipulation, often take place under the veil of secrecy, shielded by a fraternity or sorority's four walls. In the bitter cold of February 1978, Chuck Stenzel, a hopeful college student at Alfred University in New York, sought brotherhood and acceptance in the Zeta Beta Tau fraternity. Instead, he found himself abandoned in the freezing wilderness, a part of a hazing ritual. Dressed inadequately for the bone-chilling cold, Chuck succumbed to hypothermia. His mother, Eileen Stevens, refused to let his death be in vain. In an interview with the New York Times, she said, "No parent should have to bury their child for wanting friends." Stevens channeled her grief into activism, tirelessly advocating for hazing reform and creating awareness about its dangers. But unfortunately, that was not enough. As part of a hazing ritual in October 2009, Donnie Wade II was subjected to hours of intensive exercise while pledging for the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. Overwhelmed, Donnie's body gave out, and he tragically passed away. In a heart-wrenching statement his family shared, he was full of dreams and aspirations. Hazing stole that from him and us. But not only men are victims of these rituals. Jordan Hankins, a bright basketball player at Northwestern University, aspired to find sisterhood within the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. However, the hazing she allegedly endured pushed her to emotional extremes. In January 2017, unable to bear the trauma, Jordan took her own life. Her mother, Felicia Hankins, in a lawsuit, claimed that the sorority's hazing was triggering her PTSD, causing severe anxiety and depression, and that she was having suicidal thoughts. The tragic incident sheds light on the deeply psychological scars hazing can leave, scars that sometimes remain invisible until it's too late. Compounding the issue is a culture of silence. Many victims, bound by loyalty oaths or fear of ostracization, remain silent. Others, indoctrinated by the idea that enduring such rituals is a rite of passage, even wear their experiences as a badge of honor. The proliferation of social media has further complicated the landscape. While it has shone a spotlight on many instances of hazing, it has also inadvertently glamorized these perilous rituals for some, making them aspire to join the ranks and endure similar trials. Amidst this complex web, understanding the depth and breadth of modern-day hazing becomes paramount, as it poses a threat not just to individual victims, but to the very fabric of community and belonging. At the core of hazing lies a perplexing paradox. Practices intended to foster camaraderie and unity can inflict profound physical and psychological harm. While the immediate physical toll is often evident, the psychological aftermath can linger. Moreover, the culture of silence surrounding hazing amplifies feelings of isolation and hopelessness. Physically, victims may suffer from a range of traumas. These include but aren't limited to fractures, burns, alcohol poisoning, and even fatal injuries. Such events can leave a lasting mark, resulting in chronic pain or long-term health complications, as was the case of Danny Santulli. Danny, a 20-year-old former University of Missouri student, is wheelchair-bound, blind, and unable to speak after his parents say he was the victim of gross hazing in the fall of 2021. Perhaps most concerning is the cyclical nature of hazing. Victims can become perpetrators, driven by a misplaced belief in upholding tradition or asserting dominance over newer members. This perpetuates a cycle of abuse, where trauma begets trauma. In understanding these consequences, it becomes glaringly evident that hazing is not just a rite of passage, but a perilous practice with deep-rooted physical and psychological repercussions. In the face of the harrowing consequences of hazing, numerous entities have rallied to champion change. Colleges and universities have tightened policies, with many implementing zero-tolerance stances on hazing. Extensive educational programs have been introduced, aiming to foster a culture of respect and mutual support. Legal measures have also intensified, with many states enacting stricter anti-hazing laws and increasing penalties for violations. Advocacy groups, often spearheaded by bereaved families, tirelessly raise awareness, pushing for comprehensive legislation and support for victims. Through a combination of education, legislation, and community advocacy, there's a burgeoning movement determined to transform the landscape of initiation rites in America. Hazing's devastating consequences are not just the responsibility of those directly involved, but of society as a whole. It is imperative for each one of us to play our part in eradicating this perilous culture. Start by initiating conversations in your communities, challenging and questioning harmful traditions, and supporting victims in their quest for justice. The journey to eradicate hazing begins with awareness, and every voice raised, every story shared, contributes to building safer spaces for all. The tapestry of hazing's history in America is intricate, with threads of tragedy and resilience woven tightly together. As we've seen, this is not merely an issue of the past, but a pressing concern in our contemporary society. Yet there's hope. With the collective efforts of educational institutions, legal bodies, advocacy groups, and most importantly, individuals like you, we can reweave this tapestry, one where traditions uplift rather than oppress, where camaraderie is built on respect, not rituals of harm.